Hi everyone, it's Victor speaking. And today we will be discussing the Uranus and North Node conjunction. This is the second video of my astrological predictions and insights in regards to 2022. So there will be a third video as well when I'm going to be discussing Mars and its retrograde period in the sign of Gemini, and also we will be looking at Jupiter moving into Aries, and then conjuncting Chiron as well. So yes, it's a little bit of a longer video altogether when you look at the free videos, but what I really recommend is embrace the energies, because when you are listening to your personal forecast, which is going to be based on your sun or ascendant sign, even your moon sign, then you have got a general understanding of how to approach the energy, and then you just need to fit that into the house position of your own chart. So one of the biggest events of 2022 is Uranus and the North Node conjunction. Now, it does not happen every day. So this is going to be marking a longer period of time. Maybe in the next, 70 years, we should be experiencing some of the bits and bobs what I am describing to you. But most probably, we will be having some glimpse into those in 2022 already. Now, I had to laugh the other day because I made a video about, I think it was in the Libra equinox, where I mentioned that Pandora as an asteroid was very prominent in that chart. And, you know, someone commented on it, oh, this is the Pandora papers, probably you were talking about. I was like, what is the Pandora Papers? So I had to actually Google it when I found this article that some of the millionaires, how they are shifting their money around and so forth, and somehow it came to light. So the Pandora box somehow opened, and I actually found it funny how astrology can be literal from time to time. So the reason why I wanted to share that little story with you was because, you know, this combination between Uranus and the North Node will be happening in the financial axis. So it's actually not a shock. Probably this Uranus and North Node can even magnify it even more in the upcoming couple of years. So where your money is, where your assets are, and so forth. But before we actually jump onto that, let me just give you a little bit of a headline of what we will be talking about. So we will be looking at Uranus and the North Node from a mundane perspective. We will be looking at it from a personal point of view as well. And then at the last part of the video, I will be introducing the planetary nodes also, which are not necessarily about the lunar nodes, what you actually can see in your natal chart, but each planet has got their own lunar, they have got their own nodes as well. And the reason why I wanted to speak about that in this video particularly is because Uranus and the North Node meeting will be happening on Mars nodal nodes also, which I actually find fascinating. And at the same time, Mars will be in conjunction to the Uranus and North Node as well at the same time. So this Uranus North Node combination will have so much Marsian energy. But let's start with Uranus. So Uranus is actually the god of the sky. So kind of like every creation story started with Uranus. So what the story is actually that Uranus was the father of Saturn, the husband of Gaia, the Earth, and he really wanted to sleep with Gaia all the time, but Gaia wasn't really ready for it. And actually they wanted to have more kids as well, and then it just did not happen. So therefore he was all about infidelity. He found someone else, he left the family for a while, and then once he got bored, then he went back to his wife. And then like nothing happened, they were living happily ever after for a certain amount of time. And then it went on and on in cycles. And then Gaia eventually got tired of it. So asked Saturn to kill his own father, which Saturn actually tried. So this little story already shows you that kind of like the infidelity that we are kind of like cheated on in a sense, or we are misled. But at the same time, it does talk about the rejection part as well, or how rebellious Uranus was about the marriage. He wanted to stay with the wife. He never wanted to leave the wife. But also he had this very strong sexual frustration going on in the relationship too. So therefore, he kind of felt that he was forced to do so. So Uranus is, of course, all about electrified feelings. It's all about being rebellious, thinking outside of the box. So it's anything to do with eccentricity overall. Now, Uranus, from a mundane perspective, it will rule over the modern organizations. In your personal life, it kind of give you that aha experience when you're in your head. All of a sudden the light bulb is actually switched on. So it represents your big ideas. Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury. So what Mercury does, it gathers the facts and then it analyzes them. But Uranus is actually downloading the information from the sky. So it's like looking up to the sky and then waiting for, a big idea to hit you type of energy. So it's kind of like the aha moment. So, and therefore, Uranus is all about the higher knowledge. It's that's why we associate Uranus with things like astrology, alchemy, and to a certain extent magic as well, because it's something you are given as a gift to use. Now, the little story between Uranus and Gaia is very much about the togetherness and the separation as well at the same time. So that's why we say that Uranus is kind of like emotionally detached. I think Uranus is a very emotional planet, actually. It's just scared to jump into that water because I'm going to get burned somehow. So therefore, Uranus in many cases jumps into something and then pulls out immediately because it fears of rejection. Uranus rules over rules over groups and basically the social consciousness and the way how we actually do networking in our life. Now, Uranus does not necessarily want to be a part of a group, I believe. It has got actually the ability to tell them what to do. So it's a good problem-solving planet. But then once it moved on, it actually once it has solved the problem, it moves on. So, and again, just think about the little mythology here. We want to stay, but then we separate at the same time. So for instance, if you've got Uranus on your midheaven, then you can be a great problem solver, but once you've solved the problem, you're going to have to move on and then find another one to actually work on. So Uranus is the awakening. It wants to revolutionize things. It shakes things up at the core, and it does it in an unorthodox way. So Uranus tends to spend 7 years in one sign, and of course, it will be changing actually sign sometimes in 2025, and we'll be moving into Gemini, which of course I will be making a video about. Obviously, that's going to be an era when the technological advancement is going to be far off. But I do believe that we will be seeing some bits and bobs already from next year onwards because of that Marsian nodal conjunction as well. And Mars rules engineering, so some of the work will start happening at that time. Uranus actually has got hardship to fit in, and because its aim is to be accepted the way I am. So, and the way I am is kind of like being different, and then whether you can work with that or you can't, but Uranus doesn't necessarily want to, fit the mold to kind of, being accepted by others. So, for instance, from a work perspective, Uranus is a planet who needs changes on continuously because it gets easily bored. Even I usually say, I mentioned this in my vocational classes, that with Uranus, you know what, looking for a job is kind of like impossible. Usually the job finds Uranus. So the funny part is, because remember, once we actually start downloading or using our magical power, then Uranus has got this attraction ability as well. Now, also there is another mythological story behind Uranus, and that's something to do with Prometheus. He who had foresight. Now, the little story there is that obviously he wanted to give fire to the humankind. And he got punished for it, and then he got tied up to a rock in scorching weather. And then an eagle started eating his liver. But at night, it always grew back. So actually, Uranus can indicate liver problems as well in the chart. So for instance, this Uranus North Node conjunction could bring some technological advancements around liver problems as well. Maybe liver cancer somehow is going to be a very significant focal point in the medical fields. The secret to Uranus is to find kind of like that golden middle road. Uranus needs to learn to temper the extreme energies he's got. Because, you know, I want to belong to someone, but I want to be separate from someone as well. So how will I find that golden middle road? Now, Uranus rules fields such as humanitarian matters, but also it's the planet of science, human relations, counseling could belong to Uranus, civil or governmental contracts, electronics, high-tech fields. It could actually indicate in your chart where you have got unique talents, what area of life you can become original. But also this is the planet of unexpected losses and gains. So for instance, in the sign of Taurus, it can bring plenty of money at one point, but with Uranus, it's very easy to lose it as well. Or the money comes in chunks. So I get a contract and then I'm earning, I don't know, $10,000 and then nothing for 3 months type of things. So Uranus is associated with fame. It can actually bring you an overnight success. So that's definitely also important to mention here. Uranus always wants to be free. It thinks outside of the box. It has got a little bit of a hardship to commit, to stay at one place for a very long time, because they always need some stimulating circumstances or environment. Of course, because we're talking about things like downloads, right? Downloading from the sky. So of course, it's going to be the planet which is ruling over the web and the websites. So probably we will be seeing some very huge technological advancements around those two. Usually Uranus transits involve shocks. It has got that outrageous behavior, but also it uniquely contributes to the society as well. So very briefly, that's what Uranus represents in our chart. Let's have a look at from a mundane perspective. Now, if you are not aware of what mundane astrology is, then mundane comes from the Latin term for world, mundus. So it kind of indicates to us like something to do with worldly predictions. Now, I do believe that 2024, 25, 26 are going to be huge years. And I think it's going to be the beginning of kind of like a next global chapter overall. And of course, it started in 2020 with the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, but 2024, Pluto is changing sign. Then Uranus is changing sign. Then eventually Neptune is changing sign alongside with Saturn. So it very rarely happens when 3 planets are changing sign very close by. So therefore, it is kind of like talking about some transpersonal changes overall. And of course, it's going to be shaking up the world as well. Now, Uranus will be stepping into Gemini on July 7th, 2025, until November, actually. And then eventually in 2026, in April, it will move into Gemini for another 6.5 years. So Uranus is a shake-up, revolution, change, and technology. Now, from a mundane perspective, Uranus rules over riot and outbreaks of political tensions, which actually I do believe is very possible with the Uranus North Node conjunction for multiple reasons. But it happens in the sign of Taurus, which talks about your personal boundaries and also the borders when it comes to, between countries. So maybe the borders are going to be somehow actually reframing a little bit. Uranus talks about the right-wing political ideas. So let's see what the right wing is going to be doing. Yeah, I'm expecting some political matters there too, but it's the free market enterprise, the individualism altogether. So probably that we want to be free, we want to be growing North Node as an individual. We want to be kind of growing our money on a tree syndrome because Taurus, which is money and nature. So probably that's going to be very significant as well. So something to do with self-employment, something to do with gardening, and we're going to be, I don't know, making our tomatoes and potatoes, and then we're going to take it to the market and so forth. So I kind of believe that's going to be very important too. But I do believe this is going to be the beginning of very huge scientific breakthroughs and discoveries, which I will be talking about right now. So there is that innovative side to Uranus. And from a weather perspective, Uranus rules earthquakes and weather conditions to the extremes. Now, Taurus is looked at as the sign of the earth in astrology. So probably the fight against global warming is going to start next year. Somehow, recycling and different type of technological advancements, how to save the world is going to be a huge topic. But the last time when Uranus was actually meeting the North Node in the sign of Taurus, that happened in 1855. And very previously, it was in 1687. You can see that they are not meeting in the same sign that often, right? Now, therefore, it's worth having a look at that 3-4 year period. Once they had the conjunction, what was going on. Most of these events, I think, will be triggered once Uranus is actually going into the sign of Gemini. Because I'd like to point out that Uranus does not like being in Taurus, according to modern astrology. So it likes being in the sign of Scorpio. The opposite sign would be the 4 position, and it kind of makes sense. Uranus is very speedy in a sense, so it wants to innovate, and Taurus is a slow burner. So it says, you know what? Why do we do that? Let's just do, what has been tested before. There is no point in doing new things. So I think the maturation of this Uranus will be a little bit slow, and probably some of the bits and bobs will be coming just from 2025 onwards. So I can imagine that we're gonna be able to take some photographs, even more. So let's just have a look at what happened exactly around 1855-ish. So actually, it was the first aerial photographs. So I imagine that there is going to be maybe photographs made of entities in other planets and so forth, or they are going to be able to reach other planets actually. So I know we've got all these experiments going on in regards to Mars at the moment. Maybe the next planet is going to be, yeah, let's go on Saturn and all those type of things. There was the first traction engine, which was discovered or developed there was a development going on, and then a massive production started happening. So I actually expect something which is kind of moving resources from one country to another one, for instance, which will develop very significantly in the upcoming 2 years. Also, there was the first recording of human voice. So technological advancements in, for instance, how to record or how to translate animal voices, and, the frequency matters, which is very Uranian, probably will be very important. There was the invention of the eraser at the end of the pencil. These are very Gemini related matters, actually, but I'd like to point out that kind of like Taurus is the production. So some of these bits and bobs, I think, will start happening in 2022, 2023. And then we start seeing them more in 2024, 2025. There was the invention of escalators and postcards, and then the first printing machine actually appeared, or the typewriting machines came around. So that was a very significant period. The last time actually Uranus was in the sign of Taurus happened around 1930, around 1930s, which was the time of Great Depression, and that was the birth of the biggest dictators. Now, I think in the sign of Taurus, it will be saying, money rules the world. So I can imagine that the world is going to get somehow divided, in a sense. I've got money, I can do anything I want to. I need an appointment with the doctor, no problem. Here is $100, and then I'm going to be expected, immediately, and so forth. So unfortunately, I see this kind of happening. Okay, I'm expecting with this Marsian energy involved that there is going to be some military operational improvements going on as well. So I can imagine things like new military jet aircrafts, or new guns and stuff like that. I can very much imagine that. I can also imagine that more disposable aerosol cans, or an advancement around basically trying to save the world type of things, which also happened last time when Uranus was in the sign of Taurus on the border of Gemini, that the first disposable aerosol cans were invented. So I can actually imagine that. Yes, and then there was the camera, the Polaroid camera was discovered. The microwave was discovered, which is very Uranian again. So let's see what's going to happen with the microwave. Is it going to go, or is it going to be a better version of that, and so forth? That should be also happening. But from a mundane perspective, as I mentioned, the last conjunction happened in 1855, sometimes in April. And between 1850 to 1858 was actually a very turbulent period with the, I don't know if I pronounce it right, but Crimean War, which actually shifted and shook the European politics. And also this was a period of expansion of the British colonization in the Far East, sparking the Opium War in China. And then we had the gold rushes in California and Australia, which actually created massive wealth. And then the petroleum was distilled for the very first time. There was the first trans-Pacific telegraph cable laid, for instance. So, you have got the idea what we should be kind of expecting. So massive technological breakthroughs. Now, I also believe, looking at, the previous period when the nodes met, in Taurus with Uranus was in 1687. So that time was an energy where we call it as the glorious revolution. So again, revolution as a very Uranian trait here. Okay, so, and then again, it was involving England and Australia and America. So England and America popping up here twice. So we should be expecting something around England and Australia happening. Uranus, from a mundane perspective, is something to do with the collective ideas, the advancement in the world, what is happening, but it does talk about the different philosophy people have. This is the planet of social order and not the governmental order. So that's why Saturn and Uranus kind of clashing, because Saturn is the governmental orders and Uranus is more about the social orders. So how we get accepted in the society, how we get rejected in the society, the occult, the hidden activists probably will be somehow appearing, which I really can imagine that. Uranus has got the ideology going on. It has got the vision of a social organization. So, you know, the idea that, you know, the humans will be running the country. So something to do with the democracy part, kind of creating the perfect society in a sense. So I feel like with this Mars-Uranus conjunction, with the nodal Mars conjunction, people will be kind of like gonna get prompted to fight for their individuality. So Uranus brings revolution, upheavals, but it reforms things as well. So probably this will bring plenty of changes. And one of my predictions is that it will bring around the borders. So for instance, let's just think about the First World War. In 1920, Europe kind of got divided and certain parts of the countries were kind of chopped off and then were given to different type of countries. So I can imagine that these countries will start kind of fighting for their people and for their lands, which is very much about Taurus, right? The lands, the possessions, something you value. And Uranus tends to kind of give courage as well. It has got a strong will. It has got the desire to be on the front. It does want to get a little bit of public attention also. So definitely, I feel like it's kind of like marching in the streets that, you know, I want the voting system to be changing. So it's all about freedom, democracy, and independency. And probably with that Mars conjunction, we will feel that no, we are not independent anymore. Because Taurus is like a little box, right? And it's like the storage. So kind of like living in a cave situation. And probably that Uranus, Mars, double Marsian influence won't take that anymore. So I think the birth of the right wing or the emerge of the right wing is or the collision of the right wing, but I'm expecting the right wing somehow to be more on the forefront overall. Now, from an institutional point of view, Uranus rules this freedom liberating type of companies, and of course the high tech and so forth. So someone might be coming into the picture who wants to promote freedom overall. Okay, so but Uranus can rule prophets and visionaries, activists. So it's very possible that, you know, they will be merging up a little bit more as well. Uranus was discovered in 1781, which was the dawn of the technological age and also the French Revolution, the American Revolution, and the Bolshevik Revolution as well. I mean, from an historical point of view, Uranus rules these type of things. Uranus is brilliant, it's genius. It's very colorful with characteristics. It rules the LGBTQ people, kind of like the minor groups in a sense. So probably the minor groups want to be coming forward, or they want a little bit more stability. They want to actually redraw their like borders in a sense. Okay, so now from a personal point of view, Uranus and North Node together is very much about developing Uranian traits. So I've listed thousands of meanings for Uranus, and you're gonna have to develop some of those according to the house position in your chart. It kind of indicates that in the past, we might have been forced to be conservative, and you felt like you were stuck in a rut, and how can I break out of that rut? So it tells you that your soul needs to be more innovating and daring. Probably it's about introducing a new way of communication or using different type of techniques and methods, which is actually you can serve the humankind with. So it could bring up, actually from a mundane perspective, I think it could bring the breakup in the next 5 years of the social media channels, which is owned by one person at the moment. So they might start splitting up a little bit. Probably there is going to be, if you have got some type of scientific talents, or you are a great researcher, or you are kind of like a computer genius, then this Uranus actually, for instance, in your 10th house could tell you that it's time to start to invest into those. So, but also wherever Uranus is going through in your personal chart could show what area of life you might have got kind of like nervous breakdowns. You worry a lot. So if it's your career department, it might be around your job and career. How do I get stuck here? Do I move away from it? What am I going to do once I resign? And all those type of things. Typically, Uranus and North Node, especially with this double Marsian influence, it is forcing us to deal with unexpected circumstances. And typically, it's regarding the house placement. So unfortunately, if it's in your 4th house, maybe it's involving your home environment. Remember, overall, this Uranus and North Node meetings happening in the sign of Taurus, which is talking about money and personal possessions. So it's very possible that the bank system will be changing significantly. And then you're going to start thinking about, where am I going to put my money? And this actually happened around the Great Depression as well. People were putting their money in their pillowcase and hiding the money at home. So it's very possible that there is going to be cyber attacks against bank systems, or different type of tax situation will be popping up, and kind of you're going to be scratching your head, how am I going to pay my bills? And therefore people become their behavior becomes very erratic or very scattered and eccentric as well at the same time. So also North Node is kind of like an attraction point as well. When Uranus forms in a conjunction to North Node, we can attract people and lessons into our life that encourages us to detach from traditions or conventions, which might be keeping us from growing. So, for instance, actually, it could tell you that it's a great time to make some very good friendships or group connections. You know, I lost my job, no problem. I'm going to call up Johnny, and then he's going to tell me, you know what, call up Claire, and then you're going to have a job, right? And in 2022, this Uranus North Node alignment, which is happening in the sign of Taurus, the life lessons are about learning to be more self-sufficient. So look at your natal chart where you must become more self-sufficient. right? Because it's about bettering your own world, but bettering the world around you as well. So not just for yourself, but with others, because Uranus has got this group setting, uh, group settings, right, in their mind, that I need to belong to someone, but once I've kind of changed someone's life, I'm going to be moving on. So somehow the society needs to stay in your head as well. And of course, Taurus is about your comfort. So it's very possible that there is going to be some huge technological advancements about home luxuries. So you can have your little swimming pool in the middle of your living room, right? Or stuff like that. It's the planet of, you know, Taurus is the sign of kind of like abundance, the opulence, but also it's the security system as well. So do I feel secure? And with this North Node Uranus, actually, it's very possible that I won't be feeling secure enough. But also, as I said, technological problems or developments around security systems. So kind of like this, like a pickpocket system, right? That you walk in the shop, someone tries to steal something from you, and then it's going to loudly beep and so forth. You know, I don't exactly know, you know, what type of technological advancements we should be seeing, but you have got the idea, I think. So it's about shaping the Taurus area of life and kind of like modernize. So for instance, in my case, Uranus and North Node conjunction will be happening in my third house, which is the house of social media channels. So probably the way I go on and about my astrology, or the way I, you know, post my pictures at the moment or stuff like that, somehow needs to be modernized. So I'm going to have to think about that. By the way, this Uranus North Node conjunction will be happening on 18 degree 42 minutes in the sign of Taurus. Now that is actually Virgo territory. So the biggest advancement actually I see is service industry. I can really imagine there won't be enough things like so the unemployment rate, I think, can be significantly growing, and somehow that is the reason why people are going to be shifting of kind of creating something for themselves. If you ask me what I think the safest work is going to be, then something to do with food industry and making your own food. I think that's going to be very significant. So the gardening, the security, you know, the possessions. But, you know, talking about possessions, it's also very possible that somehow, you know, oh, it's not your house, it's my house, type of situations could be coming up into the picture as well. So the tax, the money situation definitely will be important here. Now, you know, Uranus went into the sign of Taurus on the 15th of May 2018. So it's been there for a couple of years, few years actually, and then it kind of started giving us some type of ideas of what to expect. So I do believe that this North Node and Uranus conjunction will bring a huge global transformation, and it will be affecting the currencies as well. So we can see that the value of the money can be up and down quite a lot, but also your own money as well, or your house, apartment, business, and your possessions overall. So I think currency changes will be happening. I can imagine that there will be one kind of like universal currency. And what country is that going to be? Well, I've got some tips, but you know, I think it's going to be China, to be frank, but you know, let's see how it plays out. Okay, but definitely something around the currency or the notes, or maybe just the money is going to go digital overall. and you're going to have a virtual background, and then we don't use money anymore, and all those type of things. It might be very close by as well, even though if it's not in 2022, but maybe in the next 10 years, I can actually definitely imagine that. Uranus is the planet we associate with kind of like room to move. It's the planet of multiple choices, kind of like the space in a sense. So this is in Taurus, which is actually rules the pound and the euro. So kind of like the foreign currencies overall. So my next prediction would be that most probably there will be other countries leaving the EU as well in the next 5 years. Or the EU will chuck some countries out. So that's something I can really imagine. Also, I think because Taurus rules anything to do with your credit cards and overall your debts as well. So the mortgage debt, the tax system, and maybe the question is, how will I be able to kind of revolve around these topics or free myself up from any type of mortgages and card debts? So I can't tell you what to do with your own money, but my recommendation is that kind of stop asking for loans, because I think it will be very chaotic in the next couple of years. Okay, or maybe just the banks won't be giving out loans, or it's just I'm just asking the question in my head and speaking out loudly as well, that do I actually need to keep my money in the bank, or shall I just put it somewhere else? But it could show very huge bank crashes and bank system problems overall. Okay. Now the nodes are very much associated with the houses and the apartments, or something to do with the real estate industry overall. I did mention in several videos that I do believe that the prices of real estate will be dropping by 2026 to 2028. Will it happen next year? I think it might start dropping a little bit after this conjunction happens. So probably so sometimes from September, October 2022 onwards, maybe with this Uranus conjunction, we will see that it goes to the extremes. So kind of like impossible prices around things. And maybe the actual prices of the property won't be such a matter, but something to do with electricity, or how the heating system and all those type of things could cause a little bit of an issue there. So that might be very possible. Overall, I'm expecting a huge banking revolution and an economic revolution overall. Taurus rules the economic situation, and Uranus kind of shakes, like it kind of explodes. It's kind of like a volcano energy. So something huge will be actually blown out. I can also imagine that there will be this kind of realization that plenty of people need to get some money back from the banks, because there were some type of situation where they mischarge you and so forth. And it might be just $100 per person, but obviously it's going to be a huge amount of money for certain type of for banks overall. Okay. So because Uranus rules over everything to do with revolution, do we expect some type of wars? Yes. Probably we should be expecting that certain countries will be having, some type of clashes going on, okay? But I do believe that the Money Laundering Act will be changing with this. Digital currency, as I mentioned, probably will be very important. Well, when we look at 1934 to 1941 period, when Uranus was in the sign of Taurus, even the North Node wasn't there, but that might not be that important for us. Or it is important, but it wasn't, right? So that is a period of time when actually the Wall Street crashed. And of course, it brought the Great Depression also. So I'm expecting major crashes in the stock market. I tend to be telling my clients, do you need to actually keep your cryptocurrency in or not? To be frank, I do believe that somewhere in March till May, maybe it's wise to actually take some money out. Uranus, is the father of Saturn, which is the hierarchy, right? So Uranus is the god of sky. So I think it is very much about that certain countries' political system will also be changing too. So meaning that maybe there is going to be a change of a king or a queen, or there is not going to be kingdom anymore, and then let's just go towards democracy and all those type of things. So it's a little bit of saying goodbye to the old structure and then kind of introducing a new concept to people. Okay, so from a weather perspective, Uranus, as I mentioned, is about earthquakes, but also it rules storms and lightning as well. So remember that Uranus in mythology was the father of two kinds of lightning, the sheet and the forked, right? So we associate Uranus with electricity and any type of invention in regards to electricity. So it's very possible that either we're going to run out or there is going to be a new source of energy coming into the picture. But from a weather perspective, it could bring loads of storms. Actually, I look back in history a little bit, some type of weather conditions. And the last time Uranus and North Node met, in many countries, this was the hottest period ever. It was at least 12 degrees higher than the normal. So it's going to be happening on the 30th of July. So it's very possible that there is going to be a huge, it's going to be affecting the weather conditions strongly. No wonder why it would be affecting the economic situation as well. Of course, the crops and, the seeds and all those type of things, right? And Taurus rules over food. So it's very possible that we're going to have to stock up our shelves again around that. Okay, Uranus rules over your outsiders. So I kind of mentioned that, a group of people who might be a little bit hidden at the moment, they will somehow emerge and then come on the front, and then they will kind of introduce their, motives to us. Now, another interesting thing about this conjunction is that it will be happening very close by to an asteroid called Urania. So Urania. So Uranus is the masculine expression of freedom, and Urania is actually the feminine expression of Uranus. They're going to be within 4 degrees from each other. Now, Urania in Greek mythology, it was one of the 9 muses. She was the eldest daughter of Zeus, and I can't remember her mother name now, but she was a mother of musician Linus. So Urania is the feminine form of Uranus, and she was the goddess of astronomy and astrology. So definitely we should be expecting huge astronomical and astrological discoveries. The last time when we started discovering something was in 2003 to 5-ish, when Sedna and some of those asteroids were discovered. So most probably we should be expecting some shocking news in the astronomical and astrological world as well. And then people might start scratching their head, okay, so astrology works or not working now, because we've got the 15th sign and we've got 5 more planets discovered, and one of them might be bigger than Jupiter, and you know, all those type of things. But she actually, Urania usually depicted with a globe in her hand, and she foretold the future by observing the position of the planets and the stars. She's also associated with philosophy and universal knowledge. It's kind of like a language, a symbolic language. So anything to do with poetry, mathematics, even music, these 3 fields might be very prominent. So asteroid Urania governs astrology, astronomy, and cosmology all together, kind of like the celestial knowledge overall. So very, very possible that people will become more curious about things, or they're going to start questioning things actually, because maybe a new discovery of a planet, and you know, that changes things. So Mars is actually conjuncting Uranus. Mars will be on 17 degrees and the node Uranus on 18 degrees. So it's a very strong conjunction. And Mars stimulates. So Uranus is quite brave. Mars stimulates that, kind of fires it up a little bit. So this combination together is a very dangerous one. So I'm expecting some terror attacks. I'm expecting situations when we want to be breaking out of any kind of limiting situations. I'm expecting some kind of like a war zone type of situation, but not necessarily a war, but maybe a suicidal attempt, or we are trying to shoot someone huge in the world, and so forth. Because with Mars, Uranus, there is always this risk-taking involved as well. But on a personal level, probably it just tells us that we need excitement, we need change, we want to be spicing our life up a little bit. And therefore people can act a little bit erratically, or we can become very spontaneous as well. Okay, I can imagine a new currency will be popping up, and then all of a sudden everyone wants to buy that currency, and then it becomes a little bit of chaos and kind of like mental disaster as well at the same time, right? This is kind of like an aspect which is telling you that sticking to an old plan is not necessarily working anymore, because you're somehow narrowing the path down for you. But you shouldn't also be becoming reckless about it, or it kind of tells you that you should not miss an opportunity, basically. I recommend from July onwards, examine the Taurian part of your chart to see, you know, what type of opportunities I might be receiving. Now, it's also very possible on a personal level and on a world scale as well, that with this conjunction, we're going to have to deal with emergencies or some type of unexpected danger. So it could be a huge storm. It could be that 50 degrees outside and, you know, we can't really go out because, you know, heart attack and all those type of things. Or we should be very careful handling heavy machines, or when we are driving or using knives, for instance, or even explosives and, you know, stuff like that. It might be related to an explosive, actually, which, you know, can cause a very significant damage overall in the world. So I know I'm a little bit negative on this one. And believe me, there are very, you know, there are very good sides to it as well. Typically, we're going to feel this more on the world scale. I think to kind of summarize a little bit here, I think the solar panels will be used a lot more widely. I think this is going to be a way to kind of cut the energy cost, which might be hitting the sky next year. development in space travel, a bigger fight against global warming. Yes, it could talk about biological attacks, but it could be talking about just a huge advancements in engineering. Probably we're gonna hear a lot more about UFOs. The danger of unemployment rising is actually very possible. And I also believe, because by the way, this Uranus-Mars North Node conjunction will be sextiling Venus, that there is going to be also some peace made between countries, right? And yeah, a peace, like a contractual agreement. So I see a little bit of a positive thing also there. You know, let's just break down a little bit of positive side. Oh, sorry. So I'm talking about this Mars, this the planetary nodes. So each planet has got their nodes going on, and maybe I've got a list here for you. So if you give me a second, let me just find that, because I don't know them by heart. Okay, so let me just share the screen for a second. Okay, so here is a table here, which is talking about the planetary nodes from Jupiter to Pluto. Now, they move very slowly, okay? So in your life, they're always gonna stay there, okay? But there is a way to look at in your chart as well. I mean, unfortunately, I don't think you can do that on astro.com, but professional programs can actually do that. So what I wanted to explain here is, for instance, Jupiter's south node is somewhere between 28 Sagittarius to 21 Capricorn. I know it's a big window, so we would need to look at where they are. But the good news is, or less good news, but anyway, so Neptune south node is always going to be between 9 to 13 degrees of Aquarius. So if you have got any planets on 9 to 13 degrees of Aquarius, imagine that it's actually conjuncting your Neptune also. Pluto's south node is between 17 to 21 Capricorn, and the north node is between 18 to 21 Cancer. So imagine if you have got planets there that they are conjuncting Pluto also, okay? And then Chiron's south node is 26 Aries to 1 degree Taurus, okay? So if you have got any planet there, that has got some type of Chiron influence going on as well, okay? Now, there are heliocentric planetary nodes as well. I put them down there so you can see. You can stop the screen and then you will be able to see. What I wanted to show here is that the nodes of Mars from a heliocentric planetary node perspective, and by the way, the heliocentric planetary nodes are the points where two planetary orbits intersect. And of course, it's considered from the sun's perspective. So imagine that it's not the Earth is in the middle, but the sun is in the middle. So this is a different type of astrology, actually. So your horoscope, we tend to be viewing that from the Earth point, and the heliocentric is actually looking at from the sun's perspective. So each planet has got their heliocentric planetary nodes as well. I would only give a maximum 2 degree orb, but what you see here is that the nodes of Mars are on 19 degree Taurus and 90 degree of Scorpio. Now, why that is important for us? Because you will be able to see that the meeting is happening on 18 degree 42 minutes, right? So it's very close by to the Mars as well. So it's just something I wanted to share as a little bit of a bonus. Maybe it might help you to understand your natal chart a little bit more. So yeah, so that's why we've got this very strong Marsian flavor going on around this Uranus North Node conjunction. So some of the positives, so let me be a little bit more optimistic about this Uranus and North Node conjunction. It can give you sudden insights and ideas, which can lead to a positive transformation of your own life according to the house position. As I mentioned, you might be striving for, you know, new things, or somehow you get the courage to break out of your old, break away from your old self and start something new or current, or even a little bit more modern as well. It can give you that unique kind of charisma, or somehow you can become a popular leader in the society as well. Let's say if it happens in your 10th house. Okay, you can actually renew things in your life. So maybe it's your work. Okay, you know what, we're going to start a new business, or we're going to make a complete revolution around my work. Your sense of freedom can escalate significantly as well. You might become interested in new technology or electronics or media overall. You might actually find your new calling with this, kind of like a new path of development which you're going to start working on. And maybe 4 years later, when the node's going to start, you know, 5-6 years later, when the nodes are going to be sextiling that point, then it's going to become kind of a success story for yourself. Okay. Also, it could bring growth of your self-confidence as well. So there are very good positive sides of this constellation. Of course, with Uranus, always prepare yourself for the unexpected. So we can say that the life is going to be filled with plenty of surprises, okay? Surprises, typically you can't necessarily control, but it might need a, it might need a rapid response. So crying at home won't be helping with Uranus North Node conjunction, okay? But also when you are making the decision, you just need to, you know, take the pros and the cons a little bit, because at the end of the day, especially if it's a financial decision, because it's Taurus related, or going against your own views. So thank you very much. This is my interpretation on Uranus and North Node conjunction. And as I said, in the next few days, I will be posting the video about Mars retrograde in Gemini. So thank you, everyone. See you soon. Bye-bye.